It's like an alien landscape, metal spires and structures reaching skyward, all surrounding an unexpected ranch-style house in Decatur, Georgia. Their creator is Clark Ashton. His creations all covered under the banner he calls the Riverfront Mechanical Kingdom. In this case, North Druid Hills Road is his symbolic river sweeping humanity by his artistic vision.
You know, there's obviously the fine art element of it, and then there's the craft element of it, but the ideas are the most important thing to me, you know, and it's mostly about, you know, it covers a lot of ground, you know, philosophy, religion, economic systems, belief systems, history. If you were to boil it down to one simple thing, I suppose, or two, I would say it's about God and money, which I consider to be the two most powerful forces in the history of civilization.
Ashton walks me through his various works and the symbolism behind each piece.
So with Kingdom Come, what's going on here is we're depicting time, basically, on these three registers. We've got the past and the present and the future. And in the past, we've got these sperm skeletons that are all physical life that's gone before, from the very first spark in the primordial sea to the last microprotoplasm that just expired milliseconds ago. And then these are the eel men. They're the spiritual past, because all cultures create these belief systems so that we have somewhere to go when our physical existence is over with. And this is the present, the fertility figures dancing about in mating ritual or running from each other going that way. At the top is the vultures and the future and the imminent demise of all lives, people, places, things. They're waiting for me and for you and for everything and for everybody. We've got DNA helix spirals passing information from the past to the present to the future. You've got the chain of life hooking everything together. On the top of the throne here, we've got the antenna picking up the signals coming through from the other side of consciousness.
His detailed explanations, often animated, always passionate, cover installations in both the front and backyards.
We know that history is viewed from many different perspectives, and the history that we learned in the books isn't necessarily the history that's true. It's only one perspective of history. And so this armless, powerless character is bearing the weight of the world, but he's unable to shift those political winds all by himself because he doesn't have that power. But he has the controls that says place or erase or just simply forget. And here we have the lost, forgotten souls of history dangling in the plumes of the past, the exhaust plumes of the past. The entire thing is called The Best Laid Plans.
His journey, like other artists, a circuitous route of ideas, vision, skills, and a bit of chance.
By 1976, you're 18 years old, and you are trying to figure out what to do with your life. You've decided to become a welder.
That's right. It was kind of funny. I knew this guy when I was like maybe 15 and he was 16, and one day he said something like, you know, yeah, I'm gonna be a welder. I'm gonna be an arc welder. And I was like, well, that sounds interesting. I'd like to do that too. And I thought that meant like welding McDonald's arches or the St. Louis Arc or whatever, you know. And so that's what I thought arc welding was. But so then I went to tech school and found out what it was all about. And I actually liked doing it. And I worked at it for a couple of years, but I didn't really like it as a job. And so I only worked at it for a couple of years.
So you're unsatisfied by it, then what?
Well, then I wanted to leave Augusta, you know, and so this was like 1977. And so I went back to tech school and electronics school and moved to Atlanta, which I thought was, you know, going to be so cool, and moved up here and got a job as an electronic technician. And I did that for 10 years and then got a band together and was playing in a band, and got frustrated with the creative compromises of being in a group. And then I had an artist girlfriend, and she suggested that maybe I could do art. And I was like, well, I know how to weld, maybe I'll make some metal men. And so I bought a welding machine and built this shop here and started making metal men. And that's the first one I ever made, was up on top of that pole right there.
Each piece has its own vision, its own symbolic take on Ashton's main themes, including his first and largest installation.
So this is the sewer brick road right here. And this is what leads to the superstructure. And so all you get when you're on the sewer brick road is a pot to piss in, and that's what's over here. And you're getting hosed down by the super hoser up here constantly while you're out here. But if you study hard and you go to like Harvard Business School or Yale Law School or something like that, you can get inside the superstructure, and then that way you won't have to be hosed down anymore. You can do the hosing. And so you get to come inside, and then you get to create supersized holes in the sky to create the beliefs. And then when people outside of the superstructure want to know what they're supposed to do, then you send out the information on the super dogmatizer. And they ask, should I buy more Enron stock? And you go, absolutely. Spend all of your savings on it.
But don't discount Ashton's wild ideas as the fever dreams of a crazed artist. There is serious consideration and contemplation in each sculpture, and done with an educated eye. Ashton went back to school after starting his sculptural work, eventually getting a degree in anthropology and a Master of Fine Arts from Georgia State University. And he doesn't like his work to be referred to as folk art.
I can't really claim to be a folk person, and so I don't. I think the ideas of philosophy and history and religion and all the things economic systems that I touch on here kind of really take it outside of the realm of folk. Even though when you look at it, a lot of people think, oh, he's a folk artist, he's doing things like, Finster or whatever.
But I'm going to take you the same direction on this, in that all of these sort of folk artists, religion is always the derivation of their art. It is with you as well.
That's true. Beliefs, yeah. And I went to Catholic school, and so I got that imagery, as a child growing up, and that fear of God, so to speak, that they put in you. If you don't do right, you're going to hell. But religion as an organized force can be so dangerous. Is my beef with that people are organized and they kill each other over basically ideas that they've just invented. They're not absolute truths. They're like art. The Bible is a piece of literature. The Quran is a piece of literature. They're just things that people invented, ideas that people put together, and then they're used to pit people against each other. And so that's the problem with religion, as far as I see it. But, the idea of God itself is a totally different thing. There's a spiritual component to that I think is important. I mean, it's.
Are you an atheist?
I wouldn't say that. I think it's probably better to believe in something than to not, just because it makes for a richer, more beautiful life if you are not convinced that there's absolutely nothing and no purpose. But what God is certainly open to interpretation in a lot of different avenues of thought.
Piles of scrap metals and salvage art treasures are scattered around his backyard workshop.
Here's a chicken and the egg question. What comes first, the vision to create or the materials that trigger creativity?
It really works both ways, but I think you can kind of look around here and see that I've developed a palette, over the decades, and lots of times something will sit here on the ground for 20, 25 years before I know what to do with it. I know it's cool, I know it's a cool thing, and that's why I collected it. But, and then I'll just come up with some idea and maybe do a little soapstone sketch on the table here.
Wow.
And then then I'll just start building it.
While no artists like their work to be criticized, Ashton has a more unique consideration.
Did you have any problems with neighbors as you started to create this vision that, not everybody sees art the same way?
When I started doing the metal, it really didn't, which was in '89, it didn't really become a problem for the neighbors until like 1996. when I was working on these 3 big towers that are out in the front yard, the Faith in Industry complex. And somebody complained that I was running a business, and then the county came over and served me a notice and said, you know, you need to get all this stuff off your property. And I was like, well, it's not a business. I'm just building art to keep in my yard.
Did you find peace ultimately with neighbors over this or not?
Oh, I've outlived 3 generations of them. I mean, they've come and gone and come and gone.
The artist rarely sells any of his art, and he hopes his artistic collection will remain here when he is gone. His latest endeavor acknowledges that sense of mortality and immortality.
Tell everybody this work is really all about ideas to me. It's not about process. It's not about welding. It's really about the ideas that they represent. Everything is very symbolic. And so I wanted to, as I'm getting older and I know the end is getting nearer, I wanted to be able to project those ideas from here, you know, and do that in a symbolic way. And so I just decided to make these transmitters. I'm trying to enclose this body of ideas and then send out those ideas on these transmitters, and hopefully, you know, that'll get through to people. I mean, you're here, right?
Right.
So it must have gotten there somehow.
His sculptures are at times challenging, at times whimsical and fantastical, but like all art, always reflecting the man who made it.
You are a man who is not passing judgment, but you are someone who is observing and creating.
Yes, that would be true. And I try to reflect it back, you know, and just say, this is my time. This is what I see. This is how I've processed it. And when I'm gone, this is a document of that little moment in time from one person's perspective.
Clark, do you ever think of yourself as a sort of,
I don't know, sort of a variation of Willy Wonka?
I never saw that.
That you have the golden ticket, so to speak. Your backyard is a place of majesty and...
I think the answer to that is yes.
Yeah.
For Georgia Public Broadcasting, I'm Jeff Hullinger.